Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a very special live episode of the Soapbox. I am joined today by the lovely and intelligent Miss Rachelle Wilson.
Hello, Evan. Thank you so much for having me. I'm absolutely delighted to be here.
I apologize for that. My background is not my normal studio to both you. It's not as professional as it normally would be. I'm currently in other locations and had to make do. But it's certainly much more comfy than my normal chair, but my own personal comfort aside, I actually wanted to talk about some other people's comfort. I have you here, the representative and the founder, owner, and purveyor of the Make Some Intelligent Noise prison reform and police reform movement. I wanted to actually wanted to talk to you since you're super in the know on these issues, and it's important, and it's kind of like with all the stuff we've been dealing with COVID, with all the stuff we've been dealing with as it pertains to being inside, not being able to see friends and family, and having to stay safe. The one thing I've really wanted to talk that's kind of been neglected by a lot of people, especially in the media, is how prisoners are faring during these trying times, and you have a vested personal interest in these men and women's well-being, and I figured nobody would know their current situation better than you. So let me just start with a very broad question, and we'll go into it little bits. If you could, in about 300 words, how would you surmise what life's been during COVID for inmates in the past, at least in our home state of Delaware, in the last year since last March?
Thank you for asking that question. It's a very important question, but I think the answer is twice as important. Because I do have a son there, I am privy to quite a bit of knowledge and information, as well as all of the people that come in contact with my son here in the Delaware prison, because the movement that I started out here has now trickled into the actual prisons all over the state of Delaware. So I am privy to quite a bit of information. I don't know every story, but what I can gather from the stories that I have heard, Evan, if I could say it in one word, it would be simply confusion. There's been a lot of confusion inside of our Delaware and American prisons all over the nation, but I will stick here to Delaware primarily, and I'll say the confusion has been the Delaware Department of Corrections is doing whatever it can lawfully to appease the people and to give some level of accountability for attempting at least to save lives during the COVID pandemic. And in doing that, because they really didn't know what to do. Think about it. Out here, we are told to social distance. We are told to wash our hands regularly with soap and water for 10 seconds, 15, 20 seconds. And a host of other things take place with us out here, Evan, as you already know. But inside of the prisons, people are classified. And when you're classified based on your point system, it means you can only go thus far, point A to point B, if even that much. Some people are classified in a maximum housing facility, which means they cannot be moved around. They have to be in there. And that's a very large number or population of people. And in maximum, you are shut down in your prison cell for 22 and a half hours per day, every day, for the duration of your time in a maximum housing facility or unit. So I had to paint the picture for you so you would be able to comprehend how this is so confusing. So the Delaware Department of Correction, in its attempt to appease the Delawarean constituents and advocates, they moved people around. They attempted to separate those they thought might have symptoms from those that had not yet had symptoms, and they kind of missed the ball. They kind of dropped the ball. They missed the mark. And I'm not saying that in a way that would be nasty towards the Delaware Department of Corrections. I realize that these people are doing what they think is best, but it didn't work. It's not working because you cannot socially distance when you're locked in a cage by classification. To be in that cell for 22 and a half hours, there is no social distance. And those people are on a pod of also classified, mandatory maximum housing unit. And it's about 80 people. So you've got a unit full of 80 people and however many, I guess it would be 40 cells. And so there's 2 people in every cell. There's no way to social distance. And because you're in prison, they're not going to give you a whole bunch of soap and things like that, simply because some people in prison need extra attention, monitoring. And so you can't trust them with something as simple as soap, much less hand sanitizer or any form of alcohol and bleach. So it's really very confusing. And it's just like someone threw a puzzle up in the air and they're attempting to catch the pieces.
So for me, I was a subscriber to the Delaware News Journal for a good number of years. I got it delivered daily to my house, and I read it most mornings with a cup of tea or coffee, and eat my breakfast before I headed into school for the day. And over that 2-3 year period, which began school and ended when I was working overnight at a gas station, one of the narratives that I saw throughout a couple of those papers was I believe it was the 2016 or 17 prison riot.
17.
And I saw kind of the trial and the kind of kangaroo court that kind of followed, So it's like most people, I already did not have a whole lot of faith in the people working on the ground to give a shit about the well-being, pardon my French, give a shit about the well-being of these prisoners. So when COVID hit, whenever I did think about this issue, I'm thinking they are probably in a really bad way right now. Because if they rioted in protest of 100-degree internal temperatures, like lack of quality food, like mistreatment, I can't.
One of the worst things, if I can chime in, and I want to be careful in saying this, but it is important to be honest and transparent. And so, God rest the soul of Officer Floyd. That was, unfortunately, he did lose his life in that particular riot. But there were reports and after reports saying that there were people, correctional officers, who were so nasty and so inhumane to certain and particular prisoners or offenders, as we call them, that they actually put feces on bread and slid it on a tray to inmates. And so whether that was a personal situation, because, some inmates do really nasty things to the guards, and I get it, right? So retaliation is, I'm going to do this back to you. The problem with that is, even though we're humans and we all want to be respected, and certainly the correctional officers want to be respected as well, you got to remember, they are also incarcerated in these prisons for 15 or 18 hours a day. Some are only 9 hours, or if they're pulling double shifts, so they're incarcerated as well, constantly behind locking doors and clink, clank and chink, chink and zzz, buzzes. And so they're incarcerated, and that doesn't actually make for very happy employment. So there were some mean and nasty things that were done to guards. There were some mean and nasty retaliations from guards to the inmates or to the offenders. And that, it's just like the straw that broke the camel's back when George Floyd was murdered, and it began riots, and it changed the nation. It changed the world when George Floyd was murdered by Officer Chauvin. But in the prison, giving a human being feces at dinner time or lunchtime or any time is just really, really a hit below the belt. And it was the straw that broke the camel's back. So you take that on top of, literally, there were inmates that had blood in the backside of their shorts because guards, correctional officers, had committed sexual violations against these men with objects in order to hurt them for retaliation purposes. So the riot of 2017 was really ugly. And we never want to ever have to see that again or have anything like that happen. What makes it so comical, if there is any comedy at all, to a riot where people have lost their life, it would simply be the man that actually started the riot. He manipulated the situation so well. He was so shrewd and clever in his manipulation that he actually had the state of Delaware. He turned evidence on the other people who were rioting, making his sentence a little bit better, which of course he's serving a life sentence for murder, and had Delaware transport him to Baltimore, Maryland, the prison there, which is where he was originally from. And he's now going to the appeals court in order to have his sentence commuted. And
that's grotesque. That is absolutely grotesque.
He was very clever. Very clever. And the people who actually saved lives, there was a gentleman by the name of Tariq Downing who saved Patricia May's life. Patricia May is a counselor and came in for a teaching training and just got caught up in it. So it was Tariq Downing and four other offenders who locked themselves and Miss May into one of the cells and would not allow the other offenders to get a hold of her. As it did, some offenders did get a hold of one of the nurses. So, that's pretty awful. That offender that, violated the nurse that got just caught up and couldn't get out in time, they did get her. But that offender was shot and killed, and she was rescued. And Patricia May stayed in the cell.
I can't necessarily wait. So the guy that was assaulting the nurse was killed.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I thought something else for a second. All right. So I feel better about that then. Never mind.
The only way, he had quite an interesting record. And so, rape and murder and these things were part of his lifestyle before he was incarcerated. And he was being incarcerated. There's a riot going on, and a nurse is jammed up between two locked doors. Hey, he took advantage of the situation. And when they came in to rescue her, the only way to rescue her was to, eliminate him completely.
I don't know if this says something about me, but I think that was a justifiable end to that man's life.
There was no other way to save her because it was, I don't want to get graphic, but there's no other way that they could have saved her. But I do want to just add this one thing to my sentence. the counselor that was saved and protected by these 5 offenders, in particular, the leader of the protectors was named Tariq Downing. That man, even though she has claimed to the governor of the state of Delaware that he saved her life, he is still incarcerated. He is still incarcerated.
What is he in prison for?
Probably some petty things as a young person, ripping and running in the streets, got involved in some stuff. But, I don't know the whole extent. I just know there were some street activities that got him in prison. And, but I don't think it's like rape or murder. I don't think that's what it is.
Nothing you would think would be an indicator of him having poor character.
Most that the governor should be able to do is at least take off, 5 or 10 years from his whatever his sentence is. We think he should have been able to come back home to his family.
Yeah. Speaking of family, I was actually wondering, how's your son been holding up during this past year?
My son is doing very well. Again, I don't want to brag or boast, but I have to say the way that my son was raised, I raised him to be a king, to be a general in the Army. And so no matter what you face, even if you wobble and, you bend over or you fall over a little bit, you got to get back up. But I can honestly say, other than the confusion of them moving him around, he was on the compound. And he's doing very well. And then he gets COVID after being locked in a cell for 22 and a half hours a day, solitary, for 10 years. He gets on the compound, and 2 weeks later, he's got COVID. So all of that was a little disheartening for him. But again, he's a soldier. He's a general in the Army.
That's really nice to hear. So the other thing that I've noticed, while prison reform is most certainly, given your personal investment thing for the Make Some Intelligent Noise movement, the other facet of it is police reform. So I've, due to current circumstances in my life, I have unfortunately, at least over the past year, been out of the loop as far as local politics go, as far as police reform goes. Can you kind of give our viewers some at least a MSIN surmise statement on policing on a national level and on a local level? National for our national yes. And international listeners, of course.
So on a local level, which is here in the state of Delaware, and even more zoomed right in on the city of Wilmington, Delaware, which is where I'm broadcasting from. The police...
My hometown.
The Wilmington... Excuse me?
I said my hometown as well.
Yes. So the Wilmington Police Department, and let me preface this statement by saying this. I build relationships with people. I started my movement, rah, and I want to beat people up and curse people out and all of that sort of thing. Like I was on the front lines of being the most aggressive person that I could be as an advocate. But I had a revelation and epiphany. And so now I build relationships with people, and I have a decent working relationship with the chief of police here for the city of Wilmington, Robert Tracy. And I love him, his wife, they're great people, and that's personal. But when it comes to doing your job, I'm able to separate the two. I'm old enough and wise enough to separate my personal feelings for my professional feelings as an advocate in a movement. So let me say this. The Wilmington Police Department is now soliciting, if I can use the word soliciting, encouraging the Wilmington City Council to give them more money for a narcotics division, as well as cameras. Now, we want the cameras, but they're also asking for, a little overtime pay and a couple of things like that. So we are kind of stretched to the limit financially, and there's so many other things that we need to do with the money that the federal government has given to the city of Wilmington for its police. I'm not sure that, super duper funding for a narcotics division is as important.
I agree.
Getting our street cams up so that we can make people accountable for the behavior that's taking place in our city amongst our young people in our urban communities where young people are killing each other. Do I think that police need to be trained to be more sensitive in urban communities? Absolutely, Evan. I mean, it's not rocket science. Do I think it's going to happen? Perhaps in time it will. But as we speak today, right now, we do not have enough police, the same familiar police officer walking the same beats in the communities to getting to know the people, because that is how you build relationships where the community can trust you, you can trust them, and then we don't have as much, we're not murdering George Floyd's when you have a relationship with the community that you are policing. And I just think Wilmington is not doing enough of that. But on a national level, there are a few states. California is doing it. New York is looking into doing it, where they're putting the same police officers every day. This is your beat in this community. Get to know the people, and it's working. And again, that's only in a few of the states, maybe 3 or 4. Maybe it's a pilot, just a test try. I don't know. But we need that all across the board in America, because that's going to cut down on crime, and it's going to cut down on Black people being incarcerated as well as murdered.
Very, very eloquent and informative as usual, and I agree probably 1,000% with everything that just came out of your mouth. So the next thing I kind of want to talk about is, has there been any changes in since the pandemic started, at least on the national level? What have you noticed, at least from statistics and trends wise, like as far as incarceration goes, and police, police, has there been any significant changes, any increases or decreases in incarcerations over the past year?
Well, I can say here in Wilmington, I'm sorry, those are my dogs.
Absolutely fine.
So I can say here in Wilmington, and maybe in the whole state of Delaware, they're attempting to just, if you're jammed up on a crime, that's sort of a petty crime, they're trying to just move you through, give you a little fine or something like that, and get you through the court system and be done with it. Because they don't want to incarcerate people right now. We're already dealing with, the Delaware Department of Correction has their back against the wall when it comes to advocacy for humanitarian treatment during the COVID pandemic. And so to continue to incarcerate people when we're advocating to decarcerate, we're telling you, let these petty crime people, let them out, to give everybody some elbow room, a little social distance, spread people out, reclassify folks so that it'll be safe for everyone, not just with COVID, but of course, as I've already stated, some of the people that are locked up for 22 and a half hours, not all, but some of them really could hurt people. And so it's important not to classify them with people who are less aggressive than, say, they are. That's as nice as I can think of to say it. But they're trying not to really incarcerate at this time all these little petty crimes. Now, if you commit murder, rape, that sort of thing, you're Jeffrey Dahmer and you're eating people, putting them in refrigerators, yeah, they are definitely putting you in prison here in the state of Delaware. Delaware is very, very tough on crime. And again, I take that back to who is now our president, Joe Biden. At the time, he was Senator Joe Biden, where he supported the crime bill to be tough on crime and really, 3 strikes, you're out. So,
even though nationwide, that policy has been shown by study after study after study after study to not work, and yet because it sounds good, and
And unfortunately, and again, I don't want to make it seem like I'm playing any race cards, but it's Black History Month, so I really want to tell the truth. This is a great time to have these types of conversations, especially with my brothers and sisters of other nationalities. But we can look at the data, the statistical data over the history since they created the bill, tough on crime, 3 strikes, the mandatory minimums. It has really impacted our brown communities, our brown and golden communities, more than any other nationality in the nation. So Black and brown and golden people have been the ones that suffered. And if you really look at it and do the research based on the timing of the bill, we have to say that was a time when people were writing laws that would impact Black, brown, and golden families and communities. And so all of the massive incarceration that has taken place, that has purposely impacted Black and brown families, is now people are undoing the wheel. The wheel's been rolling very nicely, doing everything that people wanted it to do for years, centuries, eons. Now we're in a new generation. We've got younger people who are involved in politics. We've got a lot of fresh new ideas, and even our older politicians, our public servants, are realizing that we've got to undo the chain. So we're undoing the massive incarceration of our brown people. But we've got a ways to go. We really have a ways to go, Evan.
So, if many of my viewers who have listened to the podcasts before have probably noticed Miss Rachelle Wilson when I've had her on live before, and I had her on person to person before. You guys already know what makes them intelligent noise reform business origins and all that. It's very important. But what I think I would like to highlight, and this would probably be like the final question for you, Miss Rachelle, before we move into the shout out segment and start shouting out people we love, care about, and want to promote. What is a 3-point, 5-point, 14-point plan that you have that to sort of what are a handful of things that you could do that could, if not solve the problem, but start the process of not only fixing the problems we have in prison from a logistics and treatment perspective, but also a culture. A culture. At the end of the day, let's be real. Guards are paid by the state to monitor prisoners and make sure they stay there and secure their well-being. The fact that guards are listen, you at that point as a guard, you are functioning like a teacher at a school. It is unbecoming of you when you're getting paid to take care of these people to be abusing them. Therefore, my question is that if there is even if a report that gives credence to the fact that a guard slid an inmate a piece of feces on a piece of bread for dinner time, that guard, even if that's credible enough to get to a committee, that job should, even if he didn't do it, he shouldn't have the job anymore. Because if somebody was willing to make up that demonstrable of a lie about him, that says something about his prior things. So, what to you, Ms. Rachelle, the final question I'll ask you for our lovely interview, I always love having you on, is what would be in about 1,000 words, how would you go about fixing, at least keeping it local, the Delaware prison system from either a logistical, emotional, or culture perspective?
Wow, that's a loaded question. That's a loaded question for only 1,000 words. First, let me
You're a
say,
very intelligent woman. I have 100% confidence that you'd be able to do it.
as much as you enjoy having me, I enjoy being here. Thank you so much, Evan. You are one of the people that I met early at the beginning stages of me starting a movement. And maybe it's my age or just I'm not the smartest cookie in the jar. But when it comes to technology, man, just throw me under the rug. And I can say you have saved me on more than one occasion. So I value our friendship and I value you. And I thank you so much for always inviting me to be here. Now, if I could start my 1,000 words, what would I do? I think it's important for your listening audience to first understand that, as I stated a few moments ago, when I started this movement, you know personally, because I shared with you, I'm a mom, I'm a professional mother, and they jammed my son up for a liquor store robbery. The judge, one of the good old boys from down south, jammed my son up for 25 years for liquor store robbery, and a plea agreement that was supposed to only be 4 years. So at the time that sentence came down to me, I had absolutely no understanding or comprehension of the law. I did not understand what had just happened in that courtroom when the judge said the words that he said, and then they carted my son off behind this wooden door. And I didn't understand that. So the first thing I did, the first thing that happened is I did have an emotional breakdown. But once I recovered from that, I started learning and studying and practicing the law. So I'm about 3 years in, and where I'm at this point, Evan, I try to be that rambunctious advocate, knocking down doors, screaming and yelling at people, trying to make some noise. And I was really making a lot of noise, but it wasn't intelligent noise. It wasn't until I had my epiphany that my movement changed from being a radical, ready to blow up whatever is in my way, to being someone who can build relationships with other human beings in any position. I like to think of it, I can associate with anyone from the whorehouse to the White House. That's who I am. So if I were going to solve the problem, or what I feel that I can do, I have the power and authority to do, is my voice. As a journalist, as an advocate, I can lift my voice and teach and educate and make sure that the knowledge and the information of what I know is out there, as well as be a lobbyist for a lot of the in the political arena, for getting bills passed. So I'm really happy to say that the Wilmington City Council just passed House Bill 32 for equal rights. They amended the Constitution, saying that no one of color can be discriminated against, and there are very harsh penalties if you are found guilty of such offenses. So, I'm really involved on the political scene. That is how I make changes as a journalist, because I'm having backdoor conversations with our public servants. We know them as elected officials, but truly their paycheck is they are our public servants. So I build relationships with them. I advocate through just friendship, talking with people and letting them know what I know, and saying, hey, this is right or wrong, or this shouldn't be this way. Let's do something about it. That's why you were voted into that seat. So let's do something about it. So I think my strongest point of advocacy is probably a journalist, and the second strongest would be as a lobbyist, dealing with our political elected officials. And if I can say one thing, I don't know if I have any words left, but
you're good.
There is a House bill now that I am supporting and lobbying for. House Representative Melissa Minor Brown in the General Assembly is pushing House Bill 37, and that bill, as well as House Bill 72. And I'm advocating for both of those. But House Bill 37, Evan, is going to decarcerate during a pandemic. Now, it seems like the most logical thing to do. It doesn't take rocket science to figure out if you're overpopulated and you're trying to get some social distancing, let the petty criminals out. Like they're petty crimes, little stupid stuff. Let them go. But for some reason, the Delaware Department of Correction, maybe they didn't get it. They didn't get the memo. So we created a bill. And that bill will decarcerate during a pandemic or an epidemic. It will give everyone 365 days of good time credit, which means if you've got less than a year to go or you only have a year to go, we're going to get you out of there, put you on probation, send you home, maybe home confinement with a little ankle bracelet or something. But it's petty, getting you out of the prison. Now, murderers, child sex offenders will not, again, they will not be eligible or qualify for House Bill number 37.
So I'm guessing anybody who's committed felony murder, felony assault, felony sexual assault, things like that aren't in the bill.
They will not be eligible for
all
the
right.
bill.
I just wanted to make that distinction for my listeners real quick.
Yes.
All right. So
but everyone here, if you only have a year to go, this bill will give you that, get off, go on probation, go home and be with your family and get your mind right. But if you still have, say, 10 years left on your sentence for whatever reason, this bill knocks off a year. So now you can be reclassified. And perhaps if you've got 10 years to go and you're locked up for 22 and a half hours a day, this bill could get you reclassified so that you can at least, be on a compound a little bit of time or out of max and into a medium, which only locks you up for maybe 10 to 12 hours a day. And the other time you get to be out and be human. So the bill has a lot of good points to it. And we did get it on the General Assembly floor. Yay, I'm so happy. So we were successful with that. But
I'm guessing it went down party lines.
Say again?
I'm guessing it went down party lines.
We had to, whether Democrat, Republican, whatever, it's for the decarceration. So we had to get people on both sides, but in the House had to submit it and say, yes, now it's on the General Assembly floor and the senators can take a peek at it. And that's where we really got to push it at this point. But some amendments have to be made. Of course, somebody's always in the group that wants an amendment. So we're going to get those amendments done, and then we're going to get it over to the Senate floor.
Got it. All right. That was such a super informative interview. Thank you so much, Ms. Rachelle. We're actually going to move into the shout out segment, and this is a perfect opportunity for you to shout out all the people that you want to give credence and promote their stuff. So I'll just in case you've forgotten, I'll show you. Shout out to my good friend PT Sean. Me and him have been doing a quick question video series. Me on Wednesdays, him on Sundays. It's a video series where we ask a quick question to each other, beat back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I love Vlogbrothers. Please go check his channel out. He's very funny, very interesting, and currently doing Borderlands the pre-sequel on stream on his channel. Go check him out. Also, shout out to my buddy CJ Perry, otherwise known as CalVisions on YouTube. You can follow him at _CalVisions on Instagram, and he is starting the process of getting his YouTube channel up and running. Go check him out. Lastly, go check out my buddy Target the Tank on Twitch. Give him a follow. He's a streamer, one of the smartest and wisest men I've ever had the pleasure of knowing. A 50-year-old black plumber from Florida who's lived all over the continental United States South and is one of the most interesting and kind men I've ever had the luxury of talking to. Lastly, shout out to my buddy Anthony Lopez, friend of the show, Solasonic21 on YouTube. Go give them a subscribe. Your turn.
Okay, so I wasn't ready, but I'm okay. So, so shout out to HIMedia, to Evan. I got to give you a shout out for all of your techno wizardry that you share with me and teach me in order to make some intelligent noise movement so much better and keeping up with the times. So shout out to Evan for HIMedia, and shout out to, I would like to shout out this new, I guess you call it a little talk show thing that I'm kind of working on a project with two other beautiful women. It's called Table Talk, Dimensional Table Talk. And so I like to shout out Sister Empress Abundance Child, as well as Queen Freedom, who are my co-hosts on this talk show that we're doing on Thursdays. I definitely give a shout out to all of the journalists and radio hosts at my particular radio station, WHGE 95.3 FM. To all of the journalists, great journalists here in the city of Wilmington, at the only all-black, black-owned radio station in the city of Wilmington. So we definitely give them some credence and a shout-out. And then I think in closing, I would have to give a shout-out, first and foremost, always, probably should have started here, to the Almighty Divine Creator. I'm blown away when I came to the realization that this planet we live on, planet Earth, is actually sitting on this little thing called an orbit or an axle in an orbit in this huge, vast galaxy. And yet we're on this little thing with all of these other planets and stars.
Hurling through space at 1,000,000 miles an hour.
We don't hit each other. We don't clash into them, which would be catastrophic, I'm so sure. So I've got to give first and foremost shout outs to the great I am that I am, whatever the name of that it is, that keeps us safe and sound on this planet Earth, like we don't fall over.
Listen, Miss Rachelle, Miss Rachelle, while I may have my own personal opinions on the topic of faith, you do not need to feel the need to censor your faith just because you're on my show.
No, actually, I'm not censoring it at all. I really, truly am being transparent with you when I say I am blown away. I do not know what that it is called. Now, there's 4,000 names that we can give it, but whatever it is that you call it, Evan, I first and foremost give thanks to that and a shout out to that energy that keeps us safe on planet Earth. And then, of course, to my baby boy, my son, I bless him. I praise God for giving him to me. He made me a mother and a better woman. So shout outs to my son, Justin. Baby boy, I love you. Mommy loves you.
And I also want to say for the record to everybody, also, at least, your podcast is actually going to be syndicated as part of in the HIMedia network. We're actually setting that up after. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to hear Miss Rachelle preach more on either her radio show or on her podcast, going for at least for like the near term future, we're syndicating her podcast on our network, so you'll be able to listen to her on the HIMedia home app at bit.ly/HIMhome and on our Spreaker page. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to the High Soapbox. Miss Rachelle, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. And Evan, if you could please let your guests, your audience know they can always find me on Facebook under Rachelle Wilson, and that will lead them to the tentacles of the other ways to reach me. Thank you so much, and God bless. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the High Soapbox. Thank you so much for watching our live stream. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast, and we will see you guys next time.